cloud domain, we must provide innovative capabilities in GovCloud, both by optimizing the use of existing
video, kind of talking a little bit about what our mission is and kind of our focus here and kind of how and why we wanted to build Cosmos. So.
To assure the Navy's continued advantage in the cloud domain, we must provide innovative capabilities in GovCloud, both by optimizing the use of existing systems and tools and by integrating with emerging technologies that enable us to go fast. You might be asking yourself, go fast? How fast? What if we answered at the speed of government? No, just kidding. Cosmos' primary mission was to operate at the speed of commercial, and that is what was delivered. While meeting government requirements, of course, Cosmos tackles some of the biggest challenges our customers face today. Do you want to start building within a GovCloud environment within minutes? Click Sign Up. Provide a valid funding number, similar to the way Commercial Cloud asks for your credit card number, and that's it. Do you want the ability to work at your own pace based off mission requirements? Cosmos puts mission owners in charge of their own destiny through a self-service portal. Would you prefer to spend more time focused on security instead of RMF manual paperwork? Cosmos has you covered. Cosmos is a platform to automate security workflows and auto-assigns controls. We provide continuous monitoring and enable engineers to design regulatory operations pipelines to accelerate authorizations in a way that bakes security into the systems at the resource level. Wow! Just think of the cost reduction opportunities. The bottom line, Cosmos makes GovCloud simple, easy, and streamlined in a way that doesn't only meet DoD requirements, but it completely changes the game. If you have a Common Access card, are a U.S. citizen, and need a GovCloud environment, you are a candidate for Cosmos. Come give us a try. It is time to rise above the clouds and move mission light years ahead.
So how many folks here have heard of Cosmos before you entered this room? Okay, great. So most of you have. Or how many of you guys are using Cosmos today? All right, looks like we have potential for a lot of new customers then. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Heather Heben. I'm the project manager for Cosmos, and here I have Henry Houle. He is our ISM and cybersecurity lead. So Cosmos, we started off Cosmos as an effort to really figure out how do we change the government cloud environment. We've been a Navy cloud broker for many, many years, and we have a legacy cloud environment known as NRNDE Cloud. And we've gone to plenty of different conferences, we've met with other folks throughout the Navy, and we always ask what were some of the challenges that they've seen with GovCloud. A lot of them revolved around speed of onboarding, costs, and ATOs. And then there's also a lot of other issues that many mission owners find, but those were the primary three ones. So we really wanted to focus on how do we address those, and we actually made a pitch to our leadership at NIWAC saying, we think we can revamp GovCloud, but we need to start from scratch. So we were given a little bit of money to completely greenfield this effort, and then this is what Cosmos came to be. We focused on AWS IL4 and 5 first because that was where most of our customers were at in our legacy cloud environment. We do hope to expand that into other cloud service providers as we continue to grow. We are looking at Google, Azure, and Oracle over time. We are focused on R&D at this moment as well. We support any mission owners that need to come into an R&D environment. All you need is a DoD CAC, and from your CAC, we're checking that you're a U.S. citizen. We were recently designated as a Department of Navy Enterprise IT Service in November of 2024. To put that in perspective, I believe there's 4 of them that have been designated today. So this basically says that if you need AWS IL4-5 and you need an R&D cloud environment, you should look to Cosmos. You're not being mandated to come to Cosmos, but it should be something that you take a look at least first. So I know there's a lot of words on this screen, and I don't want to read through all of these. We have a brochure that we're handing out. We cover a lot of this stuff, but there are a lot of key highlights with Cosmos. When we worked to re-engineer this, we really wanted a low bar of entry, just using your CAC and U.S. citizenship to get in. This was ideal because we make sure we can get our industry partners in there quickly, also academia. The bar of entry is very, very low with a CAC. You can have a CRADA. You don't even have to have a contract necessarily in place, but a CRADA will work. So we really wanted to make that bar of entry really low. Onboarding, we have our onboarding process down to a matter of minutes now. So, and we're going to show that and showcase that. We also built Cosmos as a cloud-native access point, implementing zero trust for our security model. So you can access Cosmos from anywhere, any device. That means you can be on your BYOD, on your home internet connection, and you can still get to Cosmos. This was important because we do realize that we collaborate with folks who are located in multiple different environments, on multiple different networks. So we really wanted to have that flexibility with Cosmos. Also, we wanted high availability standards. So we're backed by SLAs with 4 nines or higher. We also are leveraging any of the DoD tenant identities, but we don't limit it to that. So if you are not part of a .mil email address, you can still onboard into Cosmos because we didn't want to limit our contractors and our academia. And we do a lot with monitoring, with cybersecurity, doing continuous monitoring of our cloud resources. We are building out a RegOps pipeline that we'll talk through a little bit more for automated RMF document generation. Some of the big selling points for Cosmos is we've had customers be able to get their entire team onboarded into Cosmos in an afternoon and then be able to spin up their environment, have everything ready to go, and actually showcase capability to sponsors in 48 hours, which is nearly unheard of in government. So really, really positive. And this has not been just one use case. We've had many customers that have been able to do this. They need an area where they need to showcase something very quickly. They contact us on a Monday and we can have it ready to go for their demo or their whatever they're trying to showcase to sponsors by Friday. So it has been really, really beneficial. You do not need to bring your own ATO. We are covering you under our ATO, which is a huge selling point for folks trying to get into the environment quickly. And we do charge based off a consumption-based model. So whatever you spend in Cosmos, we bill you for. Whatever money that you send over that you don't end up using, we actually do return it back to you. Many, many use cases for Cosmos. Some of them I've already highlighted. If you need to get into the environment to build out your R&D environment, you need to do some rapid prototyping. You need to use some AI tools that are in cloud. Maybe you need to collaborate with your warfighters and showcase capability, get their feedback. You can use this environment for that, those types of use cases. We can also use it for like a training environment. So there's a lot of use cases that make this very attractive. Also, we have actually been talking to industry quite a bit. We have noticed that industry, a lot of times, are working with DoD mission partners, and they're saying, we need an environment where we can work with our industry partners, where we can collaborate, where we can get access very quickly. And Cosmos has solved a lot of those problems for those folks. So this has been really, really beneficial, not only for the government side, but also industry that is working with DoD mission partners. And even though we're Navy, we're not limiting ourselves to Navy. So as long as you have a DoD CAC, so that means we can support folks that are in Air Force, Army, and basically anyone that can access a DoD CAC card. So our design philosophy, we wanted to really focus on making government cloud very, very simple. We actually looked at the Apple as kind of like the gold standard. When you get your iPhone, when you get an iPad, you don't have a bunch of meetings to get it set up. You don't have a long instruction manual. So we said, how do we make Cosmos just like that? We don't want to slow down our mission owners in being able to accomplish what they need to get done. So when you onboard into Cosmos, which you'll see here momentarily, we are not requiring meetings for you to get in. We're not requiring you to submit lengthy paperwork. We really try to keep everything very, very simple, following an industry's type of standard. We pulled apart all of the DoD and DON requirements that were required for onboarding and for several other processes that are built into Cosmos and said, why are these needed? How do we onboard? How do we automate all of this? Not only does that help our customers get in quicker, it also reduces how much labor we have to have on our team, which ultimately reduces how much the service center rates are for our customers. So we're trying to keep costs low and be able to pass all of those cost savings on to our customers. So I'm going to show a little bit of a demo video, and then we're actually going to try to do a live demo. We're really confident in our environment, and we've done several live demos now since Cosmos has come to fruition. But the only piece of this that we do have to do a video demo for is the user registration. We've been registered in Cosmos for a very long time, so we can't re-register. So that's why we do this portion as a demonstration. So initially you'll come and you'll hit our Cosmos portal. It will prompt you for your CAC card. And then this form is basically, it mirrors the user-specific fields of a SARN form. You will fill in any of these fields, and anything that we can pull from your CAC, we're already pulling on the back end, so we're not remaking you enter that information. You'll upload a copy of your cyber awareness training certificate. Everybody has to take this each year. If you don't have access to TWIMS or another DoD location where that's stored, we actually provide a tooltip that will take you to a publicly available site where you can take that training. From here, you will download a pre-populated SARN form. All we're asking you to do is save it to your local machine, open it, sign the user signature block, save it, and re-upload it. And that is the end of our onboarding process. We will, on the back end, create your account in about 20 seconds. You will get an email that tells you to accept an invite, and once you accept it, you'll be able to log into the Cosmos portal. So actually, watching this actually took longer than probably it would to do in real life. And also, since these videos were created, we've even simplified the processes even a little bit further. We tried to make this as easy as possible. These videos are about a year old, and we've even simplified it even more since. And I'm actually going to stop it here, pause it, because we're going to switch over to the live demo now. It takes a second for that green screen to go away. Oops, sorry. Wanted to make it bigger, not. Okay, so I went to the main page and I clicked sign in, and then it takes me to my main dashboard. When you first log in as a regular user, you're going to see something like this. It's going to be blank. I am already part of different product accounts, and that's why I show some information there. When you first get in, you'll be able to access our knowledge base, which is here. We have a number of different articles in the knowledge base. Everything, by the way, SSOs you into the different tools that we have available. So here we have, like I said, a number of different knowledge base articles that you can click through. We try to provide very detailed explanations for how to get in, how to walk through things. But once again, as I said earlier, we're trying to make this very intuitive. So we do provide the knowledge base articles if you get stuck, but very, very intuitive is our ultimate goal. So from here, you'll actually click Create and Join, and you'll have to enter a charge code number here. When you enter a charge code number, we are actually checking that the number is valid, that there's money on it, and that it's not expired. We are doing nightly exports from our financial system. And I should back up a minute. So your government entity has to send us funding to NIWC PAC, and that funding has to be accepted at NIWC PAC. Once that funding is accepted at NIWC PAC, we use the funding document number like a credit card. And that is what we're exporting out of our financial system. And that's what we're checking to make sure it's valid, make sure that there's money on it, and make sure that it's not expired. Your government rep, whether they're a civilian or military, will have access to this create product block. From here is where they will enter that charge code. If it's invalid, and I'm just going to make up something here, and they try to click create product, it will actually tell them that it's not a valid number. Once they enter a valid number, and I'm actually going to go to I'm not going to walk through the actual, I'm going to walk through it, but I'm going to back up just a minute because I'm going to show you one that I have started. Just because if I spin up the product, it takes roughly about 30 minutes to create through all the automation, so I don't want to walk through the whole thing live because it'll take a while to spin up. But here you'll create a simple product form. This is what you'll see after you enter the valid charge number. You'll enter some basic information with your description, your SysCom, your Warfare Center, so what and so forth. You'll click Next. From here, you will see your charge code. You'll see your expiration date and your available balance. This is a demo test number, so that's why the numbers look a little wonky here with the expiration date. But your real information will show up there. You can set a budget limit, and you can set warning and freeze limits. These all take into consider all of our taxes and fees that we include, which is basically our service center rate. So that way we make sure that we're actually doing your budget limit off of what you're actually going to get billed and not just what your cloud consumption is. Also, you'll have to fill in your system categorization. Your system categorization, if you do know it, then you set it as appropriate, because we do have a lot of folks who are coming into our R&D environment knowing that they're going to go to a production system someday, and they know that their system categorization is going to be a high, high, moderate. With these overlays, they can set that. If you are if you don't know your system categorization, or you're never planning to transition into production necessarily because you're doing a prototype or so what and so forth, you can leave the default, which is moderate, moderate, low for an R&D system. This helps to build out our RegOps piece that we'll be talking about more later. From here, you'll click Next, and you'll be prompted with an agreement form. This basically just says anything that you spend in our cloud environment, you are responsible for that spend, and that it's your obligation to make sure that you're going to pay for all of your expenses in the cloud environment. Here you click Agree Initialize, and then this part takes about 30 minutes for the product to actually be spun up in AWS. When I say a product, it's a dedicated AWS account. We call them products because what we realized over time is there's a number of different projects or programs that are coming into our environment. They are working on several different widgets, applications, things of that nature, so we decided to call them products to align more with industry. So once the product is completely created, you will get an email alert. Also, you'll be able to log into the user interface, and you'll see this green check mark right here. The green check mark will signify that the product is successfully spun up, and you will be able to log into it. From here, you will, is this not fully loaded? There we go. So you'll be able to see all of your product data here, and you'll be able to see all of the information you put in here. If you are the product owner, you do have the ability to change this at any given time, with the exception of the name of the product and the acronym. But you can go in and change any of the information if it does change, so you are not beholden to the information that you put in at registration minus the name. From here, you can actually add your team members. So we actually made adding a team member very, very easily. As you can see, I have a lot of team members right now on my team. But if you wanted to add a team member, you can do it by clicking Add Member, and you can pick a different role. All of these roles are tied to different screens and visibility and tools that we have built into Cosmos. But let's say I wanted to add somebody to manage my finances. I wanted my accountant. And then I come over here and I say, okay, I'm going to add Henry. And I see Henry Hull, who's sitting right here. I click his name, click Next, and then I can click Assign, and it has assigned him now as the accountant on my product. From here, I can see he has product owner, accountant, and remote access. He will also be getting an email letting him know that he has been added to my product account, so he knows that he got added. You can do this as the product owner for any non-privileged user. Anybody who is a privileged user, we do have multiple different ways that you can add them. The reason why a privileged user is different is because there's CSWF requirements involved. So like I said, when we first created this, we still had to follow all of the DoD and DON rules, so we can't just take away CSWF. So if I wanted to add, if I was going to add Henry as a team member role, which would be a privileged role, this is kind of similar to like a cloud developer or a cloud engineer, I can click Next, and find Henry, click Next here, and then I would download the SARN, sign it as the supervisor because I am the owner of this particular product, and then I would upload this. Once I upload this, he will get a notification saying you need to complete your pre-populated PAA form and the rest of the SAR in terms of signing as the user signature. Everything is pre-populated for him. We're pulling that from his user profile, filling out the forms on his behalf. and then he'll have to upload a copy of his CSWF certificate if he doesn't already have one in the system. That is one way to do it. The other way to add folks is, and it's a much better way, and you can do this for privileged or non-privileged users, is you can copy the join code. What we realized is we have teams of hundreds of people sometimes that need access to a product. So it doesn't make sense to one by one add everybody. Here, you copy this join code, which is a long number that's automatically generated for you, and you can send that number out via Microsoft Teams, over email, you can text it to somebody, we don't care how you send it out. That number is the code that they're going to need to join your product. So they would come back here to the product, and this can be for government or contractor. They will see this box for join a current product. They will copy their join code in here, and they will click join a product. From here, they will be able to pick whatever role that they don't already have access to and be able to join from that perspective. If they're a privileged user, and I'm going to back up 1 second, because I'm going to join as one of the privileged users and show you how the forms populate. So let me go into this one, because I already have privileged access on that one I was just showing you. So here, I'm going to copy this join code. Here. Copy that in there. And now I want to join as a team member, or even, there's 3 different roles that have privileged access: security, software developer, and team member. But I'm going to do team member here. So I already have CSWF in my profile, so I don't need to upload another copy of my CSWF certificate because it already knows I have it. From here, I can see I have a PAA and a SRN that I have to automatically generate. So I can download those. And from here, you can see this is completely filled in for me. It is filled in with my user information, and it is referencing that I am trying to join this particular product name. So I will just sign these forms. Upload copies of my 2 forms. And by the way, we do check that everything is signed and that you're uploading the appropriate form. So we're not just letting anybody upload anything into those blocks. And then from here, my product owner will get a notification that I have wanted to be added to this product and that I completed everything appropriately. They will come back into their product account. They'll see my request. They can come in here and they can approve my request. And then they have to sign as the supervisor saying they approve it, and then I'm officially added to the product. That is it. That is why it only takes an afternoon to get all of your folks onboarded, because you can distribute this out quickly, approve everybody, and you're off to the races. From here, we also have a lot of information. I'm going to go back to my other product because it's been up longer. We have a lot of automation built in for our Cosmos billing element. So if you're the product owner or you are an accountant role, you can see all of these billing modules. We are pulling data in from AWS Cost Explorer, doing some calculations to add our fees on top of it, and showing you the data here. So you can do a lot of filtering by top services, by start and end date, so what and so forth. We also provide a funding screen. This pulls in some of the financial data from our Navy ERP system, in addition to the AWS data, in addition to any other licensing that we have involved. In Cosmos right now, we have WIS and RegScale licensing involved, so we are pulling in that data as well. You can come in here and you can modify your budget limits, you can change your charge codes, you can do all of this without actually having to submit any kind of help desk tickets. And then last but not least, we actually generate invoices on a monthly basis. These get generated on the 2nd of each month for the month prior for whatever you spent. And we provide you a detailed invoice of everything that you're going to get billed for, all of the AWS services that you used, all of the RegScale licenses, and the WIS costs. These all include all of our rates, so there's no surprises when you see money coming out of your funding document. Now, we try to provide complete transparency to all of our users, and we want to make sure that they are aware of where they're at from their spend perspectives. So, and then we do have, we do have a help desk. You can create a help desk ticket really easily that filters in. We're using this application. You can put your product name in, you can put your priority, your issue type, and then as you start typing any kind of keywords, it populates knowledge base articles for you to say, hey, maybe one of these articles meets your needs and you don't actually need to submit that help desk ticket. But if you still do, you can click the submit button, it comes to us, and we work to address those. I'm actually going to take a break and turn it over to Henry Hull, who is going to talk a little bit about our regulatory operations and what we're doing with cybersecurity.
Thank you. So up until this point, previously this took over 3 months just to get an AWS account stood up, several help desk tickets and emails to get your users added. We have that down to approximately 30-something minutes, plus a few minutes to add each user. So very, very streamlined. Now they have access, your users now have access to AWS resources. They can start spinning up resources, building applications, copying data over, testing applications, and so on.
Maybe you should show how we get to AWS.
Sure. So from here, based on your role, you'll have access to various tools. In this role, we have AWS Console. So all the Impact Level 4, Impact Level 5 services are available to our customers. We pre-hardened them all with the guardrails in place to ensure no public access can be granted. And they can start spinning up cloud-native services, building containers, building EC2 instances, virtual machines, that type of thing. As they start building, they will be scanned on a daily basis or ad hoc. You can choose when to run the scans on as you build stuff by a product called Wiz. So Wiz is a cloud-native application protection platform. Traditionally in the DoD, there's a lot of gaps in cloud security. One of the main things is in the security testing required for a cloud environment. Right now, there's NIST 853, Rev 4, and Rev 5 controls that are required. It's a very manual process to go through all of those. Sometimes it's subjective based upon the technology you're trying to harden. And there's DISA STIGs, which are security technical implementation guides, specific configuration settings you're supposed to apply. As of right now, there's only a handful of actual cloud STIGs, like 3 or 4, not many. Then additionally, there's a centralized enterprise tool called ACAS, Assured Compliance Assessment Solution. It's Tenable Nessus, essentially, that's customized slightly, that does virtual machine scanning for like vulnerabilities, outdated software, patches, that type of thing. And that's it. Those are the security requirements for cloud. It's missing a lot of things. Container scanning. Now you're missing your configuration settings for cloud-native services. You're missing your serverless functions. You're missing the combination of those threats in context to your environment. So that's where this tool helps fill the gaps for our customers and helps show what's missing, what they need to harden. And since it's a sandbox environment, and we built it all on zero trust principles, it allows them to rapidly prototype. Maybe they address the issues later. If they're trying to get an authorization, then they can prioritize the high criticals, moderates, and so on. But from in Wiz, our customers with the security role will be able to go through here, review their vulnerabilities, review their findings. So there's vulnerability findings. So traditionally, this is equivalent to Tenable Nessus CVEs. So it'll show you, let's see, ongoing. It'll show you exploitable patches that need to be installed. It'll show you the specific CVEs in your environment, the resources it's tied to, the technology that it's tied to, and then it helps you really dig into what do I need to patch. Maybe I should use serverless functions. Maybe I should use cloud-native resources so I don't have to run STIGs. I don't have to patch these virtual machines. It'll show you cloud configuration findings. So if you have excessive permissions, if you have something misconfigured, you have ports open to the external network, those type of things. If you're using traditional DoD security tools, you will not pick up the majority of these findings. They're just unknown. host configuration findings. So as mentioned, DoD is a very manual process, STIGs. Someone has to log into each device and manually assess components. There are some tools that automate a subset of the checks, but in our environment, we're using an industry standard CIS benchmarks that help you automate all configuration settings for operating systems, applications, cloud services, and so on. Data findings. So one of the big things in a zero trust environment is understanding the data in your environment, where that data is located, and how to properly secure that data. So things like CUI, PII, any sensitive data. So you can tag that data, customize it to show, like, I have a database now that has PII, that has a vulnerability that's tied to a web server. That web server has a CVE that's network exploitable, and that particular resource has a route to the internet. So then you can prioritize not only criticality, but the attack surface, the exposure of that particular resource. It really helps you prioritize what you should be closing. Secret findings, so these are things like access keys, SSH keys, basically a file or a format to get access to a resource. Very sensitive data, should be secured very tightly. You don't want that on a share or accessible. It allows you to just see what's exposed in your environment. Prioritize, once again, securing that. Network exposure. So this is critical, especially in cloud. Cloud wasn't designed with defense in depth in mind. It was designed around zero trust. So every cloud resource was designed to have internet accessibility to some degree. We do lock that down in our environment, but you can still inadvertently expose resources. So critical to continuously monitor that, understand, hey, I have Bedrock exposed to the internet. Maybe I should probably lock down my security groups and ACLs. And each of these findings, they actually have recommendations for how to actually remediate the findings. So I'll just go into one of the examples. So we have a lot of very smart engineers and technical folks in our organization, but a lot of them are still learning cloud, so they don't necessarily know how to resolve things quickly. So this helps them go into it, look at, all right, what is this specific finding? How do I actually fix this? And then they can look, okay, here's the command to resolve that, to remediate that issue. They could either create a ticket to put it in a sprint, or they could fix it on the spot, depending on the maturity level of their system or application. So all of these findings are then, actually we have a few other capabilities. So we do tie into CI/CD pipelines, so we can help automate some of the artifacts that way. And then we're also mapping all of these findings to the NIST 853 Rev 4 and Rev 5 controls. And that's where we really tie into a product called RegScale. So what's RegScale is doing, it's helping us automate a lot of the RMF artifacts, and we're using a construct called RegOps, regulatory operations. The idea is, if you follow this set of processes, it will help you get through the RMF process in a much more streamlined manner, and it'll help people that aren't necessarily familiar with the RMF process get through it. A lot of tribal knowledge exists in each of the DoD organizations I've done: Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Army, ATOs. All of them are slightly different, but very similar. Each of them have their own processes, different formats, different artifacts, different steps. And where that comes in is now we have, you're building your resources, you're assessing your resources, you're scanning, you're hardening your systems, you're testing your systems, your applications. From day one, we assign a control baseline to your application based on NIST controls that you can change later, following the NIST 800-160. Let's log in real quick. And it creates a security plan. So that security plan is essentially your authorization boundary within Cosmos that allows you to create different artifacts and assess those NIST controls in an automated manner. Refresh this. So this is the security plan. It's just loading right now. And what this does is, as you add new resources, they'll start showing up in your asset list. As you get new testing requirements, now you have new STIGs or new configuration requirements to address. As new vulnerabilities show up, you'll have new POEM items that are required for you to fix. Sorry, it's just being very slow right now. Let's refresh. Yeah, it looks like it's a little slow, but in here, there's several different artifacts. Right now we have the core artifacts, the hardware software inventory, the security assessment plan, the plan of action milestones, so the POAM, so that lists all your ongoing issues, and then the security control test results and ports protocol service management. So all that's being automatically populated. It's all exportable into EMAS. If you're not familiar with EMAS, it's basically just a web application that the DoD uses for like ATOs. And that really helps you get through from step 1 to step 6 in a very efficient manner. And we're working with RegScale right now to also build in a thing called Wayfinder. So it's all the RMF standard operating procedures, trying to automate that as much as possible. So if someone doesn't know how to get through an ATO, you start with step 1. You fill in this information, you get your categorization completed, you import that in EMAS. Step 2, you assign your controls, you tailor your controls, map inheritance, and has SOPs and instructions on how to do it. And then you have your profile and your environment. Step 3, you start doing your assessment, which is already occurring with Wiz. You ingest your STIGs, and that populates your POAM. And then you're ready for step 4, your security assessment plan's already filled out. Then you have all your testing. You're aware of any manual items like STIGs that you need to conduct. After that's completed, you export the SAP SAR. You can allow via team member role or read-only security role a validator into your environment, so they can come in and assess it as well. If they want to run manual checks, they want to run their own scans, they want to review Wiz scans, they can do that. They export the SAP SAR. They double check the POAM. They double check all your artifacts. All this is automated, but they can manually do it as well. From there, you have your entire, or at least all the core artifacts ready to go for your ATO, really helping our customers go from dev to prod in a very streamlined manner by using advanced tools and a lot of automation built into the environment.
Go back up. Thanks, Henry. So I'm actually going to jump back over. Oopsies, not that one. Sorry, I got way too many things going on on my computer before this. Scroll down. So we do have a number of other capabilities built into the Cosmos environment. These are new capabilities that came out in 2024. So we have something called application publishing. This is, a lot of our users are using this. Basically, if you have some kind of web server or an application that you need to publish out, you can submit a help desk ticket to us, and we can actually get your application published within a few minutes. We usually request that you give us at least like a day to get it done, just because because it is like a thing somebody has to do. It's not an automated process right now. But basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to have a custom URL for your application. You can give this URL out to your folks. Maybe you have some people that want to test out, you want to get some early feedback. All they need to do is have a Cosmos user account and be tied to a remote access role. There's no charges that are applied to this role whatsoever. So you really can send this out wide and be able to have them hit your application and be able to provide feedback and so on and so forth. We also have 2 other services called AppStream and Workspaces that we offer. They are VDI solutions. These also help if you don't want to give your users direct AWS console access. Having AWS console access is actually what makes Cosmos different. A lot of the government cloud environments don't give console access directly. We do, but we do realize that there are sometimes situations where you don't want to give console access to the folks that you're working with, so these are the solutions for that. Once you're actually into our environment and you've done all of your onboarding, what we actually found, we made it so easy for folks to get in there that folks realized that they don't know how to use AWS. So what we did was we were getting a lot of help desk tickets about, what do I do? What do I do now that I have access to this? How do I get started? We actually put together a series of videos. It's about 37 minutes in length. It walks you step by step on how to get started in your AWS environment, all the way up to the point where you could deploy an application. This has reduced our questions and help desk tickets substantially and has really increased people being able to actually get started in their environment very, very quickly. And then I just want to talk a little bit about the vision of Cosmos. So we are right now, we're focused on AWS IL4.5, and we are focused on cloud. We do plan to extend this. We really want to become a digital ecosystem. So what does that mean? that really means not only do we want to have cloud in there, so we want to work with the other cloud providers, Google, Oracle, Azure, we also want to be able to offer other tools as well. So we actually want to create kind of like our own managed services or our own marketplace where we have different tools that a variety of different customers can use. We can have a UI platform where you'd be able to select, like, I want to use these 3 tools. It would auto map to your funding document, which would auto map to all of your invoicing and all of your billing and everything like that. So that is one of the things that we're actually working to prototype out today. We do want to extend Cosmos into a production environment as well. That is on our future roadmap. We are looking for funding to do that. Eventually, also, we want to move into the IL6 environment, the classified environments too, with the different cloud service providers. And then last but not, we want to also incorporate DevSecOps tools and different DevSecOps pipelines into Cosmos, but we also want the ability to build your own because we realize that not one pipeline is the end-all be-all solution. And then another concept that we actually want to prototype out that we find very interesting is labor as a service. What we have realized is that people, when they come into our environment, they have a need for cloud engineers, they have a need for cyber folks, they have a need for a plethora of different functions and capabilities. What we want to kind of create is almost like a platform where you can go request a certain type of labor and you can reserve that type of labor. So if you're like, I need a cloud developer and I need somebody who is an intermediate level, you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to see the cloud developers are available. Here's the cost for entry, intermediate, and advanced. Here's when they're available. You need to reserve somebody for 3 months. You'd be able to see when somebody's available and actually be able to like make a ticket so that you can bring that labor on. This is something that we hope to prototype out in the next year or so, but these are all future visions. So we're working through this. We really have a lot of big goals for Cosmos and really how to transform it. We don't just want to be a cloud provider. We really want to be a way that people can get access to the tools and the capabilities they need to accomplish their missions. So, and with that, I can open it up to any questions if you guys want. Also, just so you know, we do have flyers up here if you guys want to take a flyer, and we're also going to have another demo on February 13th. If you leave your business card with me, I can make sure I send out those invites. We'll be doing it on Microsoft Teams on the 13th. And we do have a QR code that can be scanned if you also want to forward it out that way if you don't have a business card. But I am definitely open to any questions anybody has. Sure.
I read on your website about this thing called certificate to field. I don't understand what that means.
Certificate to field. Do you know I don't know where that's at on our website.
That might be the DoD certs.
Okay.
They said to repeat the question online in the microphone.
Oh, repeat the question first.
So the question was, what is their certificate to field? I believe that might be the DoD certificates required to publish an application. So part of one of the solutions we offer is application publishing. It's using Netscope private access. So it's essentially, it's a zero trust way of doing a reverse proxy. But part of that application publishing process, you will need a DoD certificate to actually get that application accessible to your end users. And what people use that solution for is to demo a new capability. So say they're iterating on a new interface or a new application, they could show it to their product owners or their sponsors, or they could use it for initial training to see how their new users interact with that new release. But part of the application publishing requirements, which we have in our knowledge base articles, describe how to get that DoD cert and how to publish that application.
Hi. Question about the acquisition and contracting portion of this. Is there rough order magnitudes or something that we can bounce against so that we can initiate the DoD procurement process to know what window we should be procuring for our claim command size-wise, 100,000, 300,000, 800,000? Because it's going to be random labs that they start up. It's going to be random solutions. We won't know up front for the X period. expected length of time for them to do it? So is there some lessons learned about how much this is gonna cost, kind of windows built out somewhere?
So in terms of the contracting, we take care of all the contract requirements for you so you really just need to send us funding to get into the Cosmos environment.
That's where I'm going.
Yes.
I don't
So
know how much to
it-
send you.
So on our
until we
knowledge,
built something.
yeah, on our portal, we have an FAQ section. The portal is publicly available. To actually log in, you have to have the DoD CAC, but the main website is publicly available. There's an FAQ section. In there, we have all of the pricing spelled out, how that works. We have an AWS calculator for you, and also if you need help figuring out what that looks like, we can actually get our AWS enterprise support to sync up with you. They can work through what is the most efficient way to build your environment, what is the most cost-effective way, how much everything's going to be cost. They're the AWS experts, so we actually incorporate them into that part of the process. And then if you send that over to me, if there's any other questions with regards to our rates, I can help walk you through all of that. But one thing I want to add on with that, Cosmos, we made it very, very easy. We don't require you to do quotes ahead of time or ROMs or any of that. So if you want to get into our environment and you're like, I have $10,000 I want to allocate to cloud spend, you can send that over. You don't have to worry about doing quotes. You don't have to worry about doing any of that. We have actually had some folks who are like, I just want to dip my toe into Cosmos and see if we like it. And they'll just send us $500 and say, let me just see if this actually works like these folks are advertising. So they'll do that, and then they'll plus up their money afterwards if they decide to keep their account, which most of them do. So we're not trying to restrict on how much you have to spend. We don't have minimum spending limits. To actually create an account in AWS, it's about $5 a day with all of the fees included. So very, very low cost. And depending on what roles you have, those link to different costs within reg scale, and then whatever you spin up in your AWS account, those link to certain workloads and Wiz. But all of that we have calculators for. We have ways that we can help you estimate that stuff depending on what kind of environment you're building up. But once again, we don't require you to send over X number of dollars to get your cloud accounts started. You can send over whatever amount of money you want. And then whatever money you don't use, we actually do return it back to you. We don't try to keep your money. Yeah.
Is this integrated with the Naval Identity Service?
So we are not integrated right now. We have been talking to them. We've been talking to them since 2002. They're not ready for us yet. 2022. But yeah, they're not ready for us at this moment, but we have been in talks with them multiple times. Yeah.
On the topic of budget and money, are you guys planning to have a show back, charge back, and to go a little granular into like product, or not product, but application level, program level, team level? Like, are you guys planning to incorporate that?
So are you talking about from like a leadership perspective, like
Yeah,
what?
Like say, they have their budget,
Mhm.
right? And then let's say they want to continue to use it, so it's consumption based.
Yes, consumption based.
So let's say for this next year, they're in Cosmos and, they're spinning up a lot of workloads and maybe a lot of volumes and, spending is getting out of control and, you want to keep them in Cosmos. So how do you guys plan on ensuring that they're able to see their spend? I saw the breakdown. There was a breakdown, right? Of
Right.
what the spend is, but is there a way to say hey, you're spending this much on these workloads? You can migrate over here.
Yeah. So the question was, how do we keep people in Cosmos, and how do they effectively manage and track their spend so that they're not going way over budget and stuff like that? So in our Cosmos tool here, we have budget limits that you can set. And then from the budget limit, you can set like a warning message and a freeze message. So basically, when you set your warning and freeze, and we do say that they have to be, like a freeze has to be 10% away from spending all of your money, and then a warning has to be at least 10% from there. So at least you have, basically you have an 80% buffer before you get notified. And you can adjust those down lower if you want to. So your budget limit is based off of all of the costs that are in Cosmos. It's not just what you're spending in AWS. It'll be everything across the board. We have calculations running in the background. When you set your warning message, it will let you know you have spent X number of dollars out of your budget limit. And then when we hit your freeze limit, we put you in a read-only state. Your account is locked and it's in a read-only state. And basically, we're asking you now, either you need to make a decision, do you want to send us more funds, or what do you want to do with your account? You can opt to close it out at that point as well. We have a lot of automated messages that are going out. We have people who maybe will use one funding doc and they'll create multiple products. So you can use it like a credit card, you can spin up 10 products if you want, but we're tracking your available balance. If for some reason you have your budget limit set to $2,000, but your available balance drops to $1,000, we will let you know that your budget limit is over your available balance. We will not cut you off or freeze you at that point, but we will let you know. We also have an extensive financial dashboard on our end, so we are actually keeping track of all of your finances as well, and we have flags going up and down all the time saying, hey, this customer is getting close to using all of their money. If they're not taking any kind of proactive action, we will reach out directly as well. From managing your costs here, you can actually break this down pretty granularly. You can also do it in a grid view and kind of see how you're tracking everything. And by looking at your historicals, you should be able to project what you plan to use in the future. We don't have any way of doing future forecasting because we're just pulling the data that you've already done today. However, we can also work with AWS, and we can come up with definitely cost efficiencies. There's a lot of different ways that maybe your environment can be built differently, or you can tweak it differently to have different cost savings. We do sync our folks up with AWS Enterprise Support, and they will walk through all of that with you in detail. Does that kind of help answer your question?
No, that helps a lot, and I guess the short follow-up after that is, so for opportunities that you guys are looking for in the future for involving other companies to come in and maybe offer FinOps solutions, is that something that you guys are looking for?
So I don't know if we're working with other companies to offer FinOps solutions, at least at this moment. What we have found when we've talked to other vendors is a lot of those products, they're not made for the way we do finance and government. And this is why we built this as a GOTS tool. We have to worry about fiscal years. We have to worry about different constraints. We have a whole, and it's not part of this because it's on our back end with what our folks manage, but there's a whole plethora of UIs and screens. We have to account for fiscal year money. And what happens is we have to take into account some of our folks, they might not have their money readily available on October 1st. Also, we have to account for continuing resolutions, things of that nature. So how do we take all of that stuff into consideration? A lot of commercial tools don't offer those types of capabilities. Therefore, we built this in as a GOTS product. Yeah. And I think as we expand over time, one of the things that we want to do is, especially from a larger Navy and even DoD perspective, we realize that different commands might want to see all of the people who are using this environment. We plan to build out management screens, leadership screens that show all of the costs and how much is being spent, because I do realize FinOps is a very big topic for a lot of leadership. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, the question is about being on the Don CIO's website. We are actually designated as a Department of Enterprise IT Service. So that is what we received. It was signed by Ms. Rathman and Secretary Girton. So thank you. We're very happy and proud of that. Yeah.
You mentioned doing multi-cloud. What's the timeline for that? And then timeline for production as well?
So we were asked, what is the timeline for being multi-cloud and the timeline for production? So with regards to both of those both depend on funding. So if we can actually, if we can find somebody to help fund some of those efforts, we can get started on those right away. From a production standpoint, I would expect that would probably take 1 year to 2 years once we receive funding. For the multi-cloud effort, it would definitely be quicker. It would just matter on how quickly we could work with the cloud vendor, whether that's Google, Azure, or Oracle. Yeah. So if anybody has a way to get us money. Yes. So we would love to send up an environment on the secret side. We're not currently doing that currently. What we are doing, we just got approval to implement Diode. So we are going to be implementing that this spring. And we actually have NR&DE, our legacy cloud environment, they do have an IL6 version. So we will be able to push workloads from Cosmos AWS IL4.5 to NR&DE AWS IL6. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you all for coming and attending. We appreciate it.